On this episode of the Girl Talk podcast,
when that storm hit, it blew everything away. We were huddled on the couch, the four of us and our dog, with no power, no lights, nothing, and hearing the swirling of the wind, seeing the trees, hearing the crack of tree after tree in our neighborhood falling.
There, you're listening to the Girl Talk podcast. My name is Carol.
I'm Kelly.
Hey, I'm Tricia.
And we want to say a very special thank you to our friends at Compassion International. If you'd like to find out more about their ministry or sponsor a child, you can text the word child right now to 800-293-1069. Thank you, Compassion. Today we're going to be talking about what we've been going through locally, the effects of Hurricane Helene that turned into a tropical storm and pretty much changed our world forever. Yeah. And so we're good. I'm happy to report our whole team. We did have some damage to people's houses, but everybody's house is still intact, and that was not the case for a lot of people in our area. If you're not in our area, let's just kind of paint the picture of what kind of took place from the very beginning. We were in the middle of what we call our impact day. So we were set up for long hours, and our leadership team on Thursday basically said, hey, this looks like it's going to be serious. We were expecting, I think, the initial reports had said like 4 to 6 inches of rain, which could lead to some flash flooding, but really in the grand scheme of things was not that big of a deal. But our leadership said, hey, we would like for some of you to stay so that we can, and we sent some of our staff home. And what unfolded over about the next 36 hours or so
like that.
Was some locations in our area got up to 24 inches of rain, 2 feet of rain. We saw tremendous flooding just down the road here from where the radio station sits, right at the edge of Asheville in Swannanoa, where some of our staff live. Pretty much the landscape of Swannanoa has changed. The Swannanoa River flooded its banks, and a lot of people were devastated. In addition, y'all can just jump in here anytime. Asheville was kind of cut off from civilization because I-40, which goes down the mountain and across the mountain too, but I-40 was closed down on one side, and also on the other side going into Tennessee, part of the roadway washed away into the river, so there was no roadway. And then on the other side of the mountain, there was a mudslide. So
26 too.
Right.
So you couldn't get north.
Right. So was there a mudslide there, or just the road was closed?
No, the road was completely washed away.
Yeah. Okay. So
that's the only way out was south.
Yeah, that's where we found ourselves. And cell service went quickly. We were unable to get in touch with friends and family members by cell phone. Of course, the internet went down. We lost power. Asheville's water treatment plants and the way that they distribute water was destroyed, and so there are still people here. I don't know, what is this day? It's almost 2 weeks out, right?
Right. Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. 2 weeks would be Friday. Yeah.
So it'll be 2 weeks. Yeah. And people still don't have water. Some don't have power. And so it has been, needless to say, a very heavy, emotional time for all of us. If you've spent any time on social media, you've probably seen the images and heard the stories about people who have literally lost everything. And I just am curious with you guys, what has been your initial kind of let's just talk about it. I mean, I think that's really the only thing that we can do, and probably the healthiest thing to do.
Process.
Yeah. I think one of the things for me that was the most interesting, and really one of God's incredible blessings, was that, Carol, you and I were here at the station together at the time, and we had no access to any information. We had no access to cell service. We couldn't leave the campus of the Cove here, and so we didn't really know the magnitude of what was going on out beyond our walls. And when we got internet back, and we were able to see, that's when the world changed for us. That we went from being
blissfully unaware
to all of a sudden hit straight on with all of the devastation. And we had to learn how to process things in a different way because we were on air, providing that hope and that encouragement to folks.
And information about where they could go.
That's right,
Yeah,
and information. And then we knew what our listeners were dealing with, and our hearts sunk.
Yeah,
because we were safe and secure in a building that had water and power, and we had beds to sleep on, and we knew that many of our listeners had lost everything, and it was heartbreaking. It was a heartbreaking moment to get the internet back. I really wish we had never gotten the internet back at that point.
Yeah. Well, I had almost an opposite experience in some ways because I did go home. So I left, I don't remember exactly when, but at some point the evening that the hurricane hit, really the worst was Friday morning. But so I left on Thursday, got home, and we were aware that things were happening, but you feel connected to the world. You feel connected to coworkers and connected to friends and family all throughout. We were sort of talking about the storm, and there's this feeling of just being a part of a larger community. When that storm hit, it blew everything away. We were huddled on the couch, the four of us and our dog, with no power, no lights, nothing, and hearing the swirling of the wind, seeing the trees, hearing the crack of tree after tree in our neighborhood falling, seeing it fall in our neighbor's backyard, seeing it fall right next door, hearing all these horrible sounds, and watching the trees swaying, knowing that at any moment that tree could hit us. We moved out of one room because we were afraid that room could have been hit by a tree. Just the waves of water from the rain and the wind just blowing down our street. It was so scary in those moments. And there were hours that we were just sitting there praying and not sure what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then you're just so aware of just being, it's just you. It's just you. And for me, it was my husband and my two boys and my dog. It was just us. Instead of being connected to the world, it was literally just us in this shell of a house as we were watching devastation happening that we couldn't control.
Yeah.
And then after the winds died down a little bit, it was still raining, everybody walked out of their houses on our street. And everyone's walking around, looking around at the tree after tree having fallen. This person's home destroyed by a tree. That person's car absolutely smushed by a tree. People walking out dazed and confused and looking at each other and just connecting with each other, but then having no ability to connect with anyone beyond the people you could see in front of you because there were trees blocking off our little 5-house neighborhood. You couldn't even get to 7 houses down because there were giant trees in the way. There was one road that was just, you couldn't even tell it was a road. It was tree after tree. Like, I'm not kidding, 20 trees down. And everyone was just you just felt so helpless.
Yeah.
And we're aware that it really, you aren't connected in that moment. It's just, it's kind of, it's you.
Right.
Yeah. And if you don't live in this area, you may be asking yourself, well, why didn't y'all, heed the warning? We get flash flood warnings all the time.
Sure. Right.
And typically that means you're going to have, if you have a flood prone area, you're going to have a little water in your basement. But most people that do that have a sump pump and they can pump their basement out and they're fine. This magnitude of rain this quickly, we had 8 inches of rain before that?
Yes,
6 to 8 inches?
Yeah. It's been right around 8 inches.
Yeah, before the storm. Yeah. And so the ground was already saturated, but when you're talking 2 feet of rain, like...
Well, and part of the problem too with all of that is that the 2 feet of rain, we got 2 feet of rain, or we got 20 inches in the, greater Asheville area, but the 2 feet was on top of Mount Mitchell. Yeah. That was where the 2 feet hit, was the top of Mount Mitchell, where, well, it's the highest point east of the Mississippi. There's no place for that water to go but down. And so then you've got Asheville and all of the surrounding area right here in this like valley. It's a beautiful, beautiful little, community nestled in
Yes.
amongst the mountains. Well, everything that's at the top of the mountain has to come to the bottom of the mountain. And
Right.
when the ground is already saturated, all that water has to go somewhere, and it went into our rivers. And that's why we weren't able to be prepared. And
There's
why
really
we had
no
such
way of preparing for
devastation. Right.
that kind of a
Yeah.
other than evacuating.
Yeah, and I will say, I love that you shared what your experience was like, being with your family and being at home. By the grace of God, my daughter was able to come in on Thursday night, and so she was with me this entire time. So that was an answer to prayer, but we did not know because we were cut off from all communication. And I guess the same was with you, with your
Yeah, I
tribe.
wasn't able to see my family at all until Saturday morning, I guess, when they just showed up randomly here at the station.
Because there was still no
I
cell
didn't
signal.
know if they were safe or not.
Yeah.
There was
For
no
30
way to know,
hours.
and that's the scary part.
That was the scary part. And I remember, I think it was on Saturday, but I'm not entirely sure. The first, we got internet, and the first image that we saw was less than a mile from our house, and everything was underwater.
Yeah.
Less than a mile from our house. And my daughter came to me, and she saw it first. And I was on the air, and I just said, I need a break. I've got to get away. So I excused myself off the air and went for a little respite. And we just held each other and cried because we didn't know. And we had a good, healthy conversation about there's nothing we can do from here because we couldn't get home. I-40 was closed. So that's the way we would get home. And because I'm a little bit down the mountain from here. And we couldn't get home. And so processing through that, like seeing the grocery store that you go to and the place where you shop and the all those things, the place where you, when at the last minute when you don't have anything cooked for supper and you need something to eat, the fast food restaurant you go to, seeing all that underwater just kind of undid us. And we had to process through, okay, this may mean that we don't have a home to go to. So it was terrifying not knowing, but also you have to process both. And this could be the case or it could not be the case, but we don't know. And so how do we deal with that not knowing? I find it interesting. You were with your family. I had my family with me, but I was here, not at my house, and you didn't have any contact with your family. So talk about that for just a little bit about how, because we had several conversations about you being able to get in touch with your guys.
Yeah. It's a really scary place to be when you don't know, when your heart is out there walking around and just on normal day, when your heart is out there walking around and you don't know if they're safe or not. But then when you add in, you begin to see the pictures of the devastation and you know that there's trees everywhere. And I live in a wooded neighborhood and, all you can picture is the worst.
Yeah.
But, never more has it been the case where I have leaned on the hope that this radio station provides, because that was what I was flooded with. I had we were here, we were safe. I knew that I was safe, and I just had to put my husband and my son in God's hands. And to be here and to hear the music literally 24/7, and to hear the encouragement, and God just saying, I'm here, I'm with you, I've got you. Just to be reminded of that, I have never needed this radio ministry more than in that 30 hours when I didn't know. But God gave me peace, and He said, I'm with you and I'm with your people. And I was never hopeless because of the messages here and because of the tight-knit family of this, this tight-knit family of being able to lean on you, Carol, and Ella too, in that moment of, we're sleeping on air mattresses and I'm like, I don't even know what's going on.
We got real close in that 36 hours or so.
Right, yep. When you snore together.
That's right.
you stay together.
Yeah, you stay together. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hearing you talk about like the vacuum in your mind, because when you don't know, then your mind is like a vacuum and it's going to be filled with something. And you said that your mind was being filled with the truth from the music and the ministry, and that was filling your mind and helping you. I did not, can you imagine? I work at a radio station. I did not have a radio,
Yeah.
a battery powered radio.
I think that's where a lot of people found
I
themselves.
will correct that as soon as Amazon starts delivering again. But a friend gave me a CB kind of radio, and I got that. I don't know if we got that like Saturday maybe. So I did start listening then. But before that, I didn't. And the vacuum of my mind was filled with anxiety.
Yeah.
Filled with anxiety. So I'm that's good that you could fill your mind with good things.
Well, and I think we felt a responsibility, to the listener. And I was so I got home from church Sunday. I was able to worship at my church. Well, we weren't at my church, but we were at another location because our church was being used for relief things. But I was able to worship with, and people would say to me things like, I would go out and sit in my car to listen to the Light FM because I needed to hear that encouragement and that hope. And I felt so helpless.
Yes.
Yeah.
But just the little information that we would be able to pass along once we got connection again, and to be able to do that was a great responsibility.
Do you remember that moment when we got our phones back?
Yes.
And because we were without phones for days. And I guess it was maybe Monday.
Yeah.
I can't remember what day it was, where our phone started ringing again. And we could hear from the listeners who had said, who were were then able to say, we were going to lose our mind if we didn't hear the hope. We had anxiety. Our anxiety was rising faster than the waters were rising. And without the Light FM, without the messages really that God was providing through this radio ministry, we would have lost our minds. And so to actually hear back then from folks, and for folks to say it mattered, what you were doing mattered, was powerful.
It's just hammering in what's true always, which is, what are you thinking about and what are you holding on to?
Right.
This time made it abundantly clear, but it's true even if we're in our normal days. It's like, what are you listening to? What are you holding on to in your mind? Because that will affect everything. I love what you mentioned about there's power in helping. When you can help, it feels like it takes you from a defensive position to an offensive position. I remember, because I came in here on, I think it was Sunday afternoon. I wasn't sure if the roads were going to be clear, but I desperately wanted to be part of what you all were doing. I wanted to support you. I wanted to try to give you all a break, because I know you'd been on air since Thursday night. And so my family and I, we were praying for wisdom. Oh, should we do it? Should we do it? And we just got in our car and we drove and we made it. And I walked in this building, and it was so amazing to see you all and hug you all. I just cried. I cried talking to Carol. I couldn't get a hold of anybody. To see your faces and to hug you reminded me just of the power of connection, of human connection. But then to be able to help, then to go, okay, you guys sit down. Let me encourage. It was lifeblood to me. There is such power in helping.
Right. Yeah. And you showing up was lifeblood to us.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to know that you were safe.
Yeah.
To be able to see, I mean, it was us in a cocoon for so many days.
Yeah.
And there was nobody but us in a cocoon. And we didn't know how other people were around us. And so when you walked in the door, when our friend John walked in the door, and we were like, oh, there are people, our people that we love are in our space.
Yeah.
They're okay, and they're here with us. It really was a breath of fresh air. So it wasn't just ministering to your soul and you ministering to, the listener's soul. You ministered to mine and Carol's souls when you walked in the door.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to talk just a minute because, I have never been through anything like this. You were in New York when 9/11 happened.
My sister said, I don't know of very many people that have been in New York for 9/11 and in North Carolina for Hurricane Helene. She said, I'm never going to live where you live. I'm never going to live in the same town as you.
I think that is helpful because you have an experience. They're so vastly different, but some of the trauma is the similarity. Yeah. But I think I've never been through anything like this. So I wasn't thinking about how to process it. Number two, even if I would have thought about it, I don't know what I would have done about it. But Kelly, we had this very profound moment. And I think it was right after you got here, she grabbed me and she said, we're going for a walk. And I was like, I don't need to go for a walk. Anyway, we got about halfway up the hill out here, and I just broke down. And I didn't even realize that my emotion was that close to the surface, but my friends evidently could see it, and I couldn't take any more of what I was seeing. You know, by that time we had seen images and videos, and we knew that there was going to be loss of life, and we knew all the things, and I just couldn't even process it anymore. So if you will, just talk for a minute about what good, healthy processing looks like and what we should be looking out for and things that we should be thinking about.
Well, absolutely. Let's share the discussion, because I don't know that I have all the answers, but I would love to have this discussion. So we talked about the power of helping, because there is power in helping.
Yeah. They call it the helper's high. Have you heard that?
I haven't, but that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
But there is also a putting off of feeling when you're helping. You're so focused on what you're doing that you are not allowing yourself to really feel. Like if you're helping someone whose house has just been destroyed and you're working hard for them, you're not going through your own sense of loss or your own sense of trauma or processing the fear that you may have had. All of those things. So you're kind of putting it off. And we've talked about this before. When you put off negative emotions, you're not leaving them forever. They are still there waiting to come back, like that ball that you try to put underneath the water, waiting to kind of bounce back up. So you have to be aware of that, that it is important to help. There's power in helping, and you are still going to have to take some time to process your own experience. And also, you know, Carol, maybe one of the reasons that you had that experience and the reason that a lot of us are having a similar experience is because we're so focused on taking care of our kids or taking care of the next thing that we're holding back our own emotions. So I think be aware that you're going to have emotions. Do not feel badly or feel like something's wrong with you if you have emotions. We're all going to have emotions. And you may be so upset because everything was taken from you, everything was destroyed. You may be upset and things weren't destroyed or taken from you. That doesn't make your feelings of loss, trauma, fear less valid. That's right. There's no ranking in a traumatic situation. We've all got to process through it. And we've all got to allow each other to express our feelings without having to worry so much that, well, I still have to be grateful. And we do.
Sure.
But allowing yourself to experience some of those negative things. We can't avoid the negative things, especially as we process a trauma.
And I think it's the same is true. We've got to be good listeners of for each other. You know, one of the things I noticed as people started to show back up in the building is that everybody needed to tell their story. And that's good and healthy. And for us to be able to listen, obviously we have to listen in small doses. If you're already carrying your own heaviness, picking up somebody else's heaviness is hard. But it also is helpful to other people to be able to listen. And I had a profound moment. I was talking to our friend John, and he was here doing some work. He works for another organization, was here doing some work. And after we stood there and talked for 30 minutes, I was like, I just realized I just vomited all of my words all over you, and I'm so sorry. And he just smiled, and he said, no, it's fine. You keep talking. You're fine.
We got to do that.
You're fine. Right.
He's
and it was so
great
healing
for
me.
But you've got to feel okay about that, too.
Right. Yeah.
That's good.
And that's what we have. We have to be able to find those safe places. And sometimes it's not necessarily the other people going through the trauma with you. But if you have some folks that are outside of this trauma right now, and there are people that you can just say, I just need to tell you my story and get it out. Sometimes that can be one of the most healing things we can do to process that trauma.
Let's also talk about a timeline, because everybody, I mean, you listen to any news report, you're going to hear, what's the timeline? Everybody wants to know when power's going to be back, when water's going to be back, when everything's going to be back to normal.
When am I going to be back?
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things that we do is once things begin to progress and relief is happening and the shock of the trauma wears off, we tend to think, oh, well, we ought to be over that by now.
Right.
And what I think we need to be very conscious of is that this could have effects not just now but in the future. So can you speak to that a little bit about
I think that we have to be okay with the fact that it's never going to be the same. It's never going to be the same.
Right.
Certain areas of our world are not going to be the same.
Yeah.
Physically or even on an emotional level. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be joy moving forward, but it's just not going to be the same. So if we have that mindset, like, I've just got to get back to how it was, I've just got to recover fully, I've got to get back to normal, that's not going to help you as much because it's going to be different. You're always going to be different after a traumatic event, after a large event like this. I will say there are some things that you want to think about. You don't want to watch too much footage. You just don't. It's just not helpful to watch the floods take a house or something that re-traumatizes you. And unfortunately, there's a lot of images around.
Yeah.
People are posting them, or you see them on television or something. Try to avoid those. They told us that with 9/11. Don't rewatch it. And every time 9/11 comes around, don't rewatch it. It doesn't. There's nothing really beneficial for you on an emotional level to do that. Yes, we need to remember experiences and pray for people and honor people.
Sure.
But it doesn't help us to re-traumatize ourselves.
You're not going to forget. Those of you who walked through that trauma of 9/11, those of us who've walked through the trauma of Helene, we are not going to forget.
Right. Yes, you're not going to forget.
We don't need to be re-triggered.
You don't need to watch it to remind yourself of it. It's kind of in your body. But
I want to ask a little bit of an aside here, but I've talked to a couple of people who have said, I just want to completely start over. Is that a good way to progress, or is
I wonder what exactly they mean. What I would do if that person was saying that to me is I would say, okay, tell me more about that. What does that mean to you to start over? To start over in what way? To start over cleaning your house, or to start over with your life, or to start over, move somewhere? I would want to know more of what that means. That does sound to me like it's somebody who wants to go back to the way it was.
And
like a normal,
like go
existence.
back to the normal, like how it used to be. So it's almost like a death. The person's not with us. Hopefully, they're in heaven. So it's not. You can't go back to before they went to heaven. It doesn't take away the time that you had with them, and then hopefully eternity with them, but you can't go back before these events and have them not happen.
Right.
So I would question the mindset of I want to begin again or start over, or want it to be back to normal. Just question what that means. It's okay to feel that. All of our feelings are okay, and God had feelings. We've talked about this on other podcasts, that it's okay to feel. You don't have to avoid your feelings. We renew our mind and we experience our feelings. So you experience that feeling, and then you renew your mind with God's truth. Those two things can happen at the same time, but you don't renew your feelings because you have to experience them. A friend reminded me to write down your victories.
Oh, that's good.
Write down your victories. No victory is too small to claim as a victory. And it'll help you thank God. Because once we start getting back into the seeing God work, that can really change the landscape of our minds.
I will never forget my first hot meal after Helene.
What was it?
It was wings from Domino's.
Domino's wings.
That was the first hot meal that I had after the storm, and we couldn't, where we live, we couldn't. Everybody, the grocery stores all were cash only.
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen cash since like the 80s or something, And so I just had the card, and Domino's would take a card and deliver to us. And I was like, we're getting Domino's. And I got wings. And I don't know if I was just hungry for something hot, but I was like, the fact that I was able to get a hot meal, that was huge. And I didn't even realize that was a big deal because, we were hearing about people who didn't have food. So I wasn't going to complain about that at all. But I do remember like being aware in that moment of, I have warm food to eat. Now there's 100 different, no, please don't email me, because there was 100 different places that were providing relief, and I could have gone for a hot meal, but I hadn't lost anything per se, so I didn't feel right going to those places to ask for help, because I felt so blessed. And so that was like a marker that I wrote in my journal about that.
Yeah.
Like, I never thought I would like think that wings from Domino's was the greatest thing since sliced bread, but today it was, because that was the first.
What if that's our new normal?
Yeah.
What if that's our new normal?
Yeah.
Is, oh wow, thank you for this meal, or thank you for this little victory, or thank you for this good thing. That can be our new normal.
Yeah.
Our tendency is for that to sort of be that way for a minute or two, and then to kind of take things for
Move
granted
on.
again.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
We can make the choice to hold on to those moments.
You know, and I love gratitude. I love the idea of gratitude and thanking God for the small things and the big things. You know, we talked a little bit about that. We had our staff Devo this morning. It was the first time we had gathered together in the room together in 2 weeks. And just the experience of being together was powerful. And then Tricia, you brought up a prayer, you know, a praise. She wanted to, you wanted to praise God for something, and at the time you said it was something small. It is something, you know,
it's a relational thing.
Yeah, it may be something small. It's also something really big in the, you know, in your own heart and mind. And just those gratitude points, you know, I woke up one morning this week with that same level of gratitude that it was like, I got to go home and sleep in my own bed after not sleeping in my own bed for 4 or 5 nights in a row. To be able to go home, I woke up the next morning when I have a bed and I have power in my house now. And
I know, but I was
so
a little sad because
grateful.
I woke up and you weren't in the room.
I know. You left your
I was
roomie.
like, yeah.
Sorry, I
Where were you?
snuck away.
She did sneak away.
She's gonna make me stay.
I was
and
happy
don't
for
wanna
you.
stay.
She gets up really early.
She is, right, yeah. And I didn't want to get up near that early.
Yeah.
But you know, one of the things I've also been overwhelmed with gratitude for is all of the helpers that we have seen, especially Samaritan's Purse. You know, there was one day,
Rapid response team, too.
Oh yeah. I saw the Samaritan's Purse folks are staying here, or their headquarters for this tragedy is here at the Cove. And so one day I came in and I'd heard that they had 500 volunteers. And I came in and I checked in with the guardhouse and I said, I hear you have 500 volunteers. And he said, oh, no, we don't have 500 volunteers. We have over 1,000 volunteers.
Wow.
Praise the Lord. The next day I heard it was up to 1,600 volunteers volunteering in one day out of this one location, then scattering across our listening area, which is basically the same area that was affected by Helene. And just to know that there are and that's just one ministry.
Yeah.
You know, there's others. There's Convoy of Hope, and there's, like you said, the Rapid Response Team, and there's
Churches.
Baptist on Mission.
Yeah.
And all
Hearts
of-
with Hands.
Yes, all of these incredible Jesus-focused folks wanting to come and volunteer, being the hands and feet of Jesus, being
the church.
being the church,
With
being
the big C.
the manifestation of the gospel to people who are hurting, and reminding them God loves you through every little act of kindness that they're giving. And it's been such a wonderful thing to see.
It is. We are so grateful. I just want to ask a quick question, because I think this is also a place that people feel guilty for being. Is it okay to need a break from all things Helene?
Yes. Yes, and yes, and yes. And one more thought. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes. We have to take care of ourselves. And we've said it before. We've said it on a lower scale. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Sure,
That is even more true when you're talking about a grand scale, a traumatic event. And it is a traumatic event. So you have to take some breaks. Yes, you do.
And I don't know if you
You have
guys
to
have
take
felt
care of
this
yourself,
too.
Well, I want to talk about that.
Sure, and this may lead into that, but I have felt myself more tired than I am after a normal day.
Because your mind is constantly processing.
Yeah.
Even if you're not aware that you're thinking about it, you're processing the fact that, I got to go boil water, or, do I need to do this, or the person that I'm calling, are they going to get my call? You're constantly processing things, so your mind is always working.
Okay.
And that is energy that is being utilized by you, so you're going to feel more tired. Also, most of us, myself included, are not sleeping well, having dreams that are active, or not able to rest Well, because we're constantly. What are you laughing
I
at?
smiled because I just remembered, it just flooded back to me, the dream that I had last night.
Oh, really?
And
I like to interpret a dream.
well, it was the greatest blessing, because all I did all night long was pray for people.
Oh,
Like, those were
wow.
my dreams. I'm just now being
that's
reminded actually of all of these, is that I walked around in my dreams and prayed with people and for people all night long.
That is a very, very Kelly Brandon thing.
I was going to say, that's not my dream. I'm like eating
But what
peanut butter.
not just.
Sometimes without clothes. I don't know why I get those dreams. It's a vulnerability, okay?
Yeah, okay.
That's
Okay, go ahead.
wonderful,
Yeah.
Kelly.
But I just remember what hope and comfort that brought me.
Yeah.
That's
To
so good.
just be walking around praying with people, even in my dreams, because I have also felt this, that I have not been serving enough.
Yeah, I've
that
had that too.
guilt
Yeah.
of, oh, I had a break. I had
Right.
5 or 6 hours. I could have done something. Why didn't I go out and, walk around my neighborhood and just volunteer to pray
Yeah.
with people? And why didn't I take you water? And why didn't I go check on you and knock on your door and say, hey, I love you. God loves you. What can I do? And there's a little bit of that guilt that I carry. And then God helped me process that throughout the night and said, let me walk around in my dreams and pray for people.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
That is
wasn't
cool.
But can't we take the good from that and leave the negative behind? The good meaning, ooh, I could help someone, or I'd love to help someone, or I'm going to reach out and help someone, without the guilt part, like, oh, I'm not doing enough because I did self-care for 3 hours.
Yeah.
But we can do that. We can take the good from that and let go of the not as good.
What I want to, I'm glad you shared that, because I want to talk for just a minute, because I no doubt there are people listening who weren't affected at all by the storm, and you're having survivor's guilt, which sometimes can be just as severe. And so let's talk about survivor's guilt for just a minute, and just acknowledge that it's very real. And you as well have seen, I've seen a lot of people who say, I used to visit Asheville, or I used to, we got engaged at this place, or, things like that. So they have connection to the Asheville area, to the high country, all those things, a lot of ASU students, all those things. And so they're now living outside the area that was affected. And so they have survivor's guilt. Let's talk about how to deal with that and how to start processing through that, because that's a very real thing.
It is a very real thing. And I think almost all of us have it on some level, because there's always going to be someone who has it worse than we do. I think that's true across the 99% of the time. There's going to be somebody who has it worse than we do. That doesn't mean that we can't have feelings. But it also doesn't mean we have to take the responsibility of that, right?
Okay.
God puts feelings in us and thoughts in our heads, feelings in our hearts, so that we can take action. So I think when you have feelings like survivor guilt or something like that, is there something that God's calling you to do? That's a question to ask yourself. That's something to pray over. Because maybe it is, I'm supposed to pray for that area. Or maybe it is, God's kind of putting it on my heart to make a donation to an organization like the Samaritan's Purse. Or hey, maybe I should call Carol to find out how she's doing. Those are things that I think God can put on our hearts for us to take action with. But God never puts condemning thoughts on our hearts.
Yeah.
He's never going to put guilt on us. That's not coming from God. So we parse out the thoughts. We parse out the feelings to figure out what is coming from God, and I'm going to hold on to that. What is not coming from God, and I'm going to let go of that.
Yeah. I was talking to a pastor from upstate South Carolina, and he and his church were mobilized to kind of go out and serve. And he said this, and it really, he said this, and I had to go back to it and really focus in on it. He said, a need known is an opportunity given. And he said, anytime we hear of a need, we can do one of three things. We may just be called to pray for that need, and we can all do that. We may be called to action, to take action. You have something that someone else needs, say water or power or food, and you can meet that need. Or you may know someone who could meet that need. And he said, so if we look at when you know a need, there are three different actions that you can take. And that was so helpful for me, because in the past couple of days, it's happened to me again. There were needs that I've heard about that I felt led to pray for, and most all the needs that I've seen I felt led to pray for. But then there were things I could do, and then there were things I couldn't do, but I knew people who could. And so that put a new frame around that for me. And I thought that was very helpful, especially if you live outside the area and you're looking for ways to help. Other thing I want to talk about just for a second, because I know we're running a little bit longer than we usually do, but I think it's important, is post-traumatic stress disorder. And I only mention this because I had a friend who was riding in the car with her child, and they were going over a bridge, and they had seen lots of bridges washed out in the flood, and she got very anxious and was almost terrified to go across the bridge because of what she had seen and the images. And, the next time we get any amount of rain, I have a feeling that there are going to be people who get those unsettled feelings. So let's just talk about that for a second and kind of how we can prepare for that, because I think we can prepare for it, and what we can do to kind of battle back.
I would think on that one of the first things that we do need to talk about that relates to that is, what are you doing to take care of yourself today? What are you doing today to take care of yourself? And that might mean you get a little extra sleep, or you try to go take a walk. I know there have been times when I don't want to do anything physical because I'm so tired, but when I go and make myself do it, I feel so much better. So trying to fight through the initial tired so then we can get the exercise or the self-care that we need through activity. I know not everybody in the affected area has access to all the foods or the water they need. Trying to do the best you can with what you can. If you do have access to things, make sure you're taking care of yourself in terms of eating well. I could really tell the difference when I was really struggling and just eating the chips or the dried things that I had instead of fresh fruit or fresh food.
Vegetables,
the first time I got grapes was here at the station when I was here serving, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm eating them, because the freshness and the and my body needed that. It needed the water and it needed the vitamins. So understanding that not everybody right now has access to everything, but if you have access to healthy foods, please try to make a healthier choice, because you're going to feel better. They say that your gut is your second brain, and the better you take care of your gut, the more your head is going to feel better. So making sure that you're taking care of yourself the best you can, understanding that there are different circumstances for everybody, but drinking water when you have it, that's going to help you feel better as well. All of those things that listening to the right music, listening to the light, filling your head, make the choice to fill your head with the good things. And when it comes to PTSD, you definitely, if you think there's any risk of that, you definitely need to avoid the footage on TV. You definitely need to avoid the re-traumatizing that comes with news stories. That will absolutely send you in the wrong direction. Even listening to searching and rescuing, just try not to listen to any of that stuff, because it does have the power to re-traumatize you. And if you think that you have a serious need, professional counseling. We've talked about the benefit of that many times, and now is a great time to touch on that. Professional counseling, preferably Christian if possible, because they're going to help point you to the true hope. But
that's going to be hard to come by for the next little bit, though, because the resources
are tapped out a little bit. But that's why we have podcasts. We have Donna Gibbs from Summit Wellness available.
The What Hope Sounds Like.
What Hope Sounds Like.
She had some great things to share. Such a wise woman. She also is posting online if you want to follow her, because I got some great things from her today as well.
Yeah, and you can get that podcast by texting just the word podcast to 1-800-293-1069, and we'll send you that podcast as well. Thinking about the re-traumatizing as well, I think one of the things that folks are going to experience is, like you said, the next time it rains. We have to remind ourselves that of the truth of God's word, and we have to replace, what is it? Philippians 4:8 says, think on things that are true, worthy, lovely. And you really have to say to yourself, is this true? You have to ask yourself the question, okay, it's getting ready to rain again. Is it true that this is going to cause another catastrophic flooding? Likely it's not true.
Right.
And so how can we continue to just renew our minds and take away the emotions of it by renewing our minds with what God says is true?
I want to just touch on that briefly because right on the money. And I worked with a counselor. Her name was Sarah for a short period of time, and she gave me some really good advice regarding that. So if you ask yourself, is it true? Is this a traumatizing situation? If the answer is no, right? God gives us feelings, so we know that if we are in a scary situation, we need to get out of the scary situation.
Right.
But if you ask yourself that and the answer is no, I am not in a dangerous situation, she recommended to me to say this to myself: I hear you, anxiety, but I don't need you right now. I don't need you right now. If you befriend it and you think, okay, it's there to help me. So we were talking about it because it related to 9/11. I carry some feelings of anxiety along that same line, a claustrophobic reaction that I'll have sometimes. And she said, that is a good thing. That's part of your body is trying to help you. And so you recognize that, come alongside it, befriend it. Okay, thank you. Thank you for trying to help me. But I'm safe and I don't need you right now.
Oh, that's great advice.
Yeah. Because you're not trying to battle it or punch it away. It's like, okay, thank you, but I don't need you right now. So that could be helpful.
That's so good. And what do we need? We need to be reminded of hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, again, one of the things that helped me the most was listening to this radio ministry and the hope that we provide through the songs and the messages, replacing the what I was telling myself with God's truth through song is the thing that works the best for me.
Yeah. I will also say that the thing that helped me the most that I didn't necessarily know I needed, I mean, I knew kind of I needed it, but it was so profound, was community.
Yes.
And if you don't have community, just start looking for one in your local area where you can gather with other believers, start a small group whatever it takes. But you were talking about it earlier about when TK came in, and it was like we all were so emotional because when you start seeing your people are okay, you kind of think, okay, there is hope. There is something besides all the images that I'm seeing, right? So find yourself community. I would say that's going to be another crucial piece to us healing as we move forward through this tragedy. There are going to be other devastating things happen and other tragedies come our way. And I was just reminded over the past week how vital community is for me. So I would say moving forward, try to find a community. And here's the other thing, too, as we just touched on, probably mental health professionals, they've suffered, too. They've lost a lot. So they're going to be in high demand right now, and you might not be able to get an appointment with a Christian counselor right away. That's where community can come alongside and help you, and you can process some of those feelings together. I would also say grab yourself a journal and don't be afraid to edit yourself. I mean, don't edit yourself. Just write down what you're feeling. I can deal with stuff if I have it on paper better than if I just let it roll around in my coconut. So I would say get yourself a journal.
I love that.
Get yourself a journal. Get yourself a community, and know that this is going to take time. This is probably not the last time that we're going to talk about this on the podcast. Because we're going to need some other time to kind of debrief and to kind of unpack what's happened and where we are, and to continue to encourage each other in hope. Okay, so you're welcome to get in touch with us. We'd love the opportunity to pray for you. You can email us at girltalk@thelightfm.org. We'd love to hear from you. You can also check in on the Facebook pages, and we just love the opportunity to serve you and to pray with you. And we also want to say thank you to our friends at Compassion International, doing great work all around the world. You can sponsor a child. Find out more about Compassion by texting the word child right now to 800-293-1069. They've sponsored this season of the Girl Talk podcast.
And we love them so much, they also checked in on us
to
find out how we were doing in the midst of all this storm. And so, Compassion, we love you for loving on Jesus' name in Jesus' name around the world, but also loving on us in Jesus' name.
We love you, Compassion. Thank you so much for your support of the Girl Talk podcast. And we're saving you a seat, so we hope you'll be right here next time we gather around these microphones for the next Girl Talk podcast.